In the quiet heart of a small African village, life began each day with the rhythm of the earth itself. The sun would rise in a wash of gold, casting its light across endless fields of yam and cassava, painting the land in promise. It was here that Adisa, a farmer respected by all, tilled the soil with strong hands and a heart that carried pride. To the villagers, his name was spoken with honor, a man whose life seemed as abundant as the harvest he reaped. Adisa's farmlands stretched wider than the eye could see. Season after season, his barns overflowed, yam piled high, grain stacked neatly, goats and chickens bleating in the yard. His compound was never without food, never without visitors. Children of the village followed him with laughter, eager to taste roasted corn from his harvest or hear his booming voice share tales of the land. Truly, Adisa was a man blessed. But blessings often carry shadows unseen. Yet, beneath all this wealth, Adisa bore a sorrow too heavy for one man alone. For years, his nights ended in silence. His mornings, though bright, opened to an empty compound. No laughter of children ran through his home, no little hands tugged at his clothes, no voices called him father. A pair of tiny sandals sat by the doorway, bought in hope long ago, never worn. Each evening when the crickets sang, that silence pressed against his chest like a weight, reminding him that all his riches could not buy an heir. His wife, Simi, carried her own wound. She was a beautiful woman, graceful, hardworking, her back bent over the farm beside her husband's, her hands scarred by years of labor. She had prayed by moonlight, visited healers with trembling faith, swallowed herbs bitter as tears. She had made sacrifices at the shrine, whispered promises to the gods. But still, her womb remained empty. Each month, her hope would rise and break like a wave against the shore, leaving her weaker, sadder, and more silent than before. In time, the village began to whisper. The elders shook their heads during moonlit meetings, their voices low but sharp. They murmured that Adisa's lineage might end with him, that his barns would outlive his name. And in Africa, where family was legacy and children the root of tomorrow, such whispers carried the sting of shame. Friends turned cautious, women pitied Simi, men urged Adisa to take another wife. And so, haunted by loneliness and the heavy hand of tradition, Adisa made a choice that would change his life forever. He married again. Her name was Aisha. Young, radiant, with laughter like a songbird at dawn. When she stepped into Adisa's compound as his second wife, the air itself seemed to shift. She carried a basket of fruit on her head, her steps light, her smile glowing as though the sun had chosen her as its companion. To the villagers, she was a breeze of hope. To Adisa, she was a chance, perhaps his last, to rewrite the story of his bloodline. Aisha's presence spread like rain after a drought. She walked the farmland with cheer, singing as she bent over the soil. She fetched water with a sway of her hips and a sparkle in her eyes that drew even the children closer. The goats seemed calmer around her, the chickens clucked louder, the compound alive again with chatter and song. Adisa, once weighed down by sorrow, found himself smiling more, laughing again. It was as though the shadows in his home had begun to lift. But not every shadow vanished. For Simi, Aisha's arrival was no blessing. To her, Aisha was a mirror, reflecting everything she could not give. The young woman's laughter echoed like thunder in her ears, her beauty a constant reminder of her own aging face. And though she greeted Aisha with words of welcome, her eyes hid storms that no one else could see. Each time Aisha's voice filled the compound, Simi's silence grew heavier. Simi forced herself to smile. She served Aisha food with trembling hands, walked beside her to the farm with steady steps, pretended to share in her laughter. But deep inside, her heart burned. Every night, she lay awake, staring at the roof, her chest rising and falling with a bitterness she dared not speak aloud. For though the village praised Aisha, Simi knew the truth. Her life was being replaced, her name fading, her love tested beyond measure. Then came the twist of fate. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the trees, Aisha clutched her stomach, her face a mask of fear and wonder. Days later, the village healer placed his hand upon her belly, nodded slowly, and declared she was with child. The words rang out like a drumbeat across the village. Women ululated with joy, men clapped their hands, children danced in the dust. Adisa's heart burst with gratitude, his eyes filling with tears as he looked to the heavens. After years of emptiness, hope had taken root in his household. Adisa rejoiced as though he were a man reborn. He danced in the compound, his feet stamping the earth, tears streaming down his cheeks. Villagers poured in with songs of blessing, their voices rising in a chorus that seemed to shake the sky. Even the farmland appeared greener, richer, as though nature itself joined in the celebration. For the first time in many years, joy flowed through Adisa's compound like a river after the rains. But joy has a way of casting its own shadows. While the villagers danced and sang, while Adisa lifted his hands in gratitude, Simi stood apart. Half hidden in the darkness of her heart, her fists clenched tight, her face cold as stone. The drums beat for Aisha, but in Simi's chest, only the drum of jealousy sounded, steady, ominous, dangerous. For though a child was coming, so too was a storm. For the first time in years, Adisa's farm carried hope. But within that hope lay a seed of betrayal that none of them yet saw. The harvest was coming, but what would be reaped was not only joy, but pain, secrets, and a truth that could shatter them all.